Recomienda Haces y Reyes.
El siguiente espacio es un programa pagado y las opiniones emitidas en el mismo no representan la opinión de CBBA Radio ni de sus patrocinadores.
And welcome to Your Health Naturally. I'm your host, Lilibeth Andre. I'm a naturopath and pranic healer with Healthy Balance here in Houston, Texas. This program demystifies complementary and alternative health in the use of holistic practices. We present a focus on physical, emotional, and spiritual health. Today we're going to talk about resonance and family constellations. Our guest today is Gabriel Pastor. And Gabriel is a Maggie Block method facilitator that incorporates resonance and family constellation techniques. So we welcome Gabriel.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing today?
Very good, very good. I wanted people to get to know a little bit about you, so why don't you tell us about yourself?
Okay, I was born and raised in Mexico City. Long time ago, and I went to the University of the National Autonomous University in Mexico, where I got a degree in management, and went through life working at different positions and even having my own businesses through life. Eventually moving to California for about 20 years, and then moving back to Cancun, and then moving back to Mexico City, and now I'm living in El Paso, Texas. Throughout this, I've done a lot of things. I've talked to a lot of people, and I was always interested in the way people behave and why we do things the way we do them. And so along my life, I was reading some authors and just out of curiosity in general culture to get to know why people do these things. And so I read a few texts on psychology. I read Freud, I read Jung, and eventually somebody gave me a really nice book called The Man Looking for Sense, by Viktor Frankl. And this book made a huge change in my life because I started looking at things and at people in a different way. You know, I have some preconceived notions about why people do things and how we do them. And this book opened up this new reality for me. And up until that moment, I wasn't that interested in psychotherapy. But after that, I started learning new techniques and reading more literature about it. I went into Gestalt therapy and started reading about Fritz and Laura Perls. And then after that, I learned about Bert Hellinger and the family constellations techniques. And then I met my teacher. Her name is Maggie Block. She lives here in Mexico, but she is licensed to be a therapist in the U.S. as well. And she taught me her method, which is a combination of the resonance repatterning techniques combined with the Bert Hellinger techniques of family constellations. And it makes for a very dynamic type of psychotherapy that allows you to treat things and solve issues, one at a time, in maybe just one session without you having to worry about being in therapy for the rest of your life. Sometimes one people can solve one issue and that's it, and they can go on through their lives without a problem.
Mm-hmm. So was there a particular instance or situation that brought you to the path of resonance and constellations?
Not really. Me and my sister, we had a very happy life growing up as kids, where we grew up in a family where the role models were very strong. My mother and father taught us by example, not only by telling us what to do or how to do it. We just saw how their life was and how hard they worked. They went through really horrible situations, but they came around and had a very nice life. But I did see the patterns of life in my three half brothers and a sister that my father had from a previous marriage. and the choices that my brothers did and how they came up through life and how much they suffered because they had horrible lives. And in the beginning, I thought it was because they never had a mother, but they did had a mother. The problem is that this lady didn't teach them the way that things should be and how to do it, and they really had horrible lives. And so that was one of the motivations in my life, that I couldn't understand why, if we had practically the same lives, the same socioeconomical status. For example, they chose not to go to school. They chose not to go to university just because. And that led into having lives that were not that pleasant and really hard. So yeah, that could be one of the triggers in my life to learn more about this, because when you're young, you don't realize these things. But as you grow older and you make choices in life, you wonder why people make some choices and other people, practically the same person, chooses to do things completely different, and sometimes makes life different and difficult for yourself.
And many times, because we're young and immature, we don't have the experience to rely on, and if we don't have the adequate role models, then we have no example. So it can make growing up or going through life quite complicated.
Yes. In this case, they did have the example of my father, who was a very hardworking man, who only went to school to the 8th grade, but spoke 5 languages, without ever going to school to learn them. He learned them because he traveled a lot, and he was a very smart person, and he could pick up these languages. And when you are Spanish, he was from Spain. He lived many years in Portugal, so he learned Portuguese, so that is easy. But then he learned French and Italian, and he learned German, who has nothing to do with our languages. So that was really amazing. And I think that if my father had the chance of going to school, he would have been, some brilliant intellectual, because we had some very smart people in my family. But he had to work from the time he was 8 years old, and because he had a large family and they were poor. So it was like I said, when you go through life and you realize all these things, you understand that there is some things in people that makes them behave in a different way.
So you were fortunate to come in his second marriage and have him be in a mature state where he was able to learn from his prior experience, and you benefited from that.
Yes, and also the influence of my mother. It was a perfect combination. She had the chance to study, and she did, but she came from also a very poor family, with a very large poor family, and she had to start working from a very young age. So it was like the perfect combination, because they understood each other perfectly well. And like I said, they gave us really, really good examples.
So that's a very good base to draw from when you're growing up and realizing. And you were mentioning that this level of happiness that you were able to grow up in allowed you to be able to want to help other people.
Exactly.
So that's where the helpfulness came in.
Yes, actually, when you see these things, and sometimes you're unable to do anything because the person had already made a choice that it's going to be detrimental to them, you want to be there for when they are going to bounce, or at least be able to help them, and maybe tell them, next time this happens, learn from this mistake, and please be able to do something else. Because if you like them or if you care for them, they might be your relatives or your friends or something like that. You care for the people, and you don't want them to go through the same thing again.
So it's a great opportunity to be able to support other people by having a solid base yourself.
Exactly.
Very interesting. Well, tell us a little bit of what resonance is.
Okay, yeah, the resonance, we are individual systems, but we are all connected through energy. We are made out of atoms, and those atoms make molecules, and those molecules have more or less cohesion, and that's why we are the way we are. But the air that we breathe, that's also made of molecules, and it also has an electric charge, and that makes us be able to be connected with each other. So you resonate with the positive, or you resonate with the negative, and everything in between. If you are 100% positive, which very few people can achieve that status, you will find that things will come to you. You know, when we say, oh, so and so has really good luck, that is because that person is vibrating in the positive. And if we say, well, this guy can't hit a break, and that what that means is that the person is resonating on the negative, and so it attracts negative things to his life. The example that I was relating to you before is when somebody thinks a dog comes by, and they get near the dog, and the first thing they start thinking is that the dog is going to bite them. The dog will bite them for sure, because the dog perceives this negative resonance, and they think this person will want to do something to me. So before that happens, I'm going to let him know not to touch me, and I'm going to give him a bite. Maybe it'll be just a soft bite, or even a growl, not even a bite, but a growl. And that means stay away from me, because I don't need your negative vibration. Either because you're afraid of me, or maybe you have never been around a dog, so you don't understand how we behave and what we do. I don't want you near me, so stay away. And it works all the time. You know, I've been around dogs, show dogs, for a long time, and I understand this happens, because we used to go to dog shows where spectators would come in, you know, people that are not familiar with dog shows, and they would just go run into the dog and try to pet him. And maybe the dog is nervous, or is upset, or has been having a bad day, and the first thing that it's going to do is turn around and bite him, because there was no warning about this touching. The same thing happens with people. If you run up to somebody and try to touch him just because, that person's going to react negatively.
Not a good idea.
So this is what happens. Yeah, it's not a good idea. So the resonance is trying to have not only happy thoughts, but a healthy life, trying to look at things in the most positive manner possible, and generate good vibrations that way, positive vibrations.
Okay, we'll hold that thought, take a break, and we'll be right back.
Great.
¿No renovaste tu DACA? ¿Pensaste que no tenías opciones? No dejes de seguir siendo un soñador. Ven y renueva tu permiso de acción diferida ya. Haz tu cita gratis al 713-228-3030. Te ayudamos con tu trámite de DACA antes que haya una apelación por parte del presidente. Contamos con plan de pagos. Llámanos ya al 713-228-3030. La primer cita siempre es gratis.
Yo soy Cristóbal Galindo, el abogado de la raza. No te preocupes, yo te voy a ayudar.
No dejes que tu evento solo sea local y quede en el olvido. CBBA Production te transmite a todo el mundo tu conferencia, certamen de belleza, quinceañeras o cualquier tipo de evento que tengas totalmente en vivo a través de Facebook, YouTube y cbbaradio.com. Te garantizamos los precios más accesibles de todo Houston. Para mayor información, llámanos al 281-745-4309 o escríbenos a info@cbbaproduction.com.
Esto puede sucederte en cualquier momento y en cualquier lugar. Tú podrías estar involucrado en una situación como esta. No hay manera de prevenirlo, pero sí cómo resolverlo. De la mano de quien te puede ayudar. Tu abogado Cristóbal Galindo.
Soy Cristóbal Galindo, el abogado de la raza, y tú cuentas conmigo.
Estamos para ayudarte. Nuestra primer consulta es completamente gratis. Llámanos ahora y haz una cita ya.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Gabriel Pastor regarding resonance and family constellations. Gabriel?
I'm here.
Yes. Well, explain a little bit more about what resonance is and how it relates to even positive thinking.
Okay. When you, because we are interconnected and everything floats around, and I was explaining a little while ago about how these atoms create positive energy and negative energy, and you attract really what you think about. When you have a behavior that you want to remove from your life because you perceive it as negative, you tend to categorize this habits, maybe it's good or bad. If you're a smoker or even a drinker, if you perceive this habit as completely negative, if you're a drinker, you go from being a happy person to a drunk. And that is all in your perception. If you perceive that this habit is negative, you will try to reinforce it and resonance towards the negative, which be, always drunk and unable to function because you are under the influence of alcohol. The same thing happens if you are just a social drinker who has a drink because you enjoy the taste or because you like the way it makes you feel, and you stop at having one beer or maybe two beers and with a meal, or even having a glass of wine. It's been demonstrated that it's very healthy to drink one glass of wine with your meals. That doesn't turn you into an alcoholic. It is just something that is part of your nourishment. Beer is a very nutritious drink. It has a lot of properties, and it is very nutritious. Now, if you drink one beer, there's no problem. If you drink 25 beers, there is a problem. And this is the thing. Some people start by drinking the one beer, but then they start perceiving themselves as something negative, and they start resonating towards the negative. Mm-hmm. And that, even though they know that it's a negative behavior, they start drinking more and more and more because they are resonating towards that. So this resonance makes you do things that you really are not thinking about. And you do them because you think, or your unconscious mind thinks that it's the best thing for you to do. But obviously it's not, and so if you drink one beer and you think this is nourishment, this is the best thing for my body, and it's going to help me digest the food that I just ate, that is a positive thought, and that is a positive feeling. And having one beer a day, there's nothing wrong with that. Even one beer with each meals, which would be 3 beers a day, that is not negative. It's the way we perceive it and the resonance that it takes us to that might cause a problem for us.
So then by being in a negative resonance, we're attracting negative consequences?
Yes, and negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, how does that tie into family constellations? What are family constellations, and why combine the two?
Okay. The family constellations method was developed by a Swiss former priest whose name is Bert Hellinger. And this gentleman, by being a missionary in Africa, observed how the African tribes would raise their kids. I don't know if you remember the famous phrase of it takes a village to raise a kid. Mm-hmm. In the case of these tribes in Africa, where they are very remotely located and they need the collective effort of everybody in the tribe. So by example, they can see that every kid follows in the traditions and follows in the needs of the tribe. So the collective is served by this individual. He came back from this mission, and first of all, the first thing that he decided was he wasn't going to be a priest anymore. He was a Catholic priest. He decided he wasn't going to be a Catholic priest, and starting developing this method, which is to have somebody represent the person with the problem amongst a psychodynamic that will make the person see actually what is happening, because you remove yourself from the situation and you have somebody else act as yourself. It is very strange, and if you have never participated in one, it's something that until you participate in one, you don't know really how it's done, because people take roles and they act the way that the person involved in the situation will act without even knowing what was going on. It's just something of this energy sharing that we have. We receive the information, and in case, for example, that it is a long-lost father who just impregnated the mother and ran away, this person who's acting like that person, because it's still the biological father, will act with abandonment and try to run away, try to leave the room where the constellation is taking place. Now, this is very dramatic, and for some people it's too strong. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we cannot tolerate this from happening, because for it's something very personal, and you're making strangers, bringing them into the family secrets. And for some people, this is not not even pleasant, or forget about pleasant, it's not tolerable.
Mm-hmm.
So in the method that we do, what we use instead of people, it's symbols.
Mm-hmm.
And these symbols represent the members of the family or the issues that they're having. If they're having money problems, we have a symbol for money. If they have a problem where there was a death in the family that was traumatic for everybody, we have symbols for that. And what we do is we make the family constellation private, just between the facilitator and the person who's consulting. We just, between the two of them, we can develop the situation, organize the system the way it is working right now or the way it's not working right now, and then fix it by taking information from the person on how things should be.
Wow,
I
very
have
interesting.
a very good example where I had a young lady consult me, and she had a problem with her dad. You know, the dad was present, and at the time when I did the consultation, the dad was in jail, but I had no idea that this was happening. And we came to the conclusion that she had a problem because the father went to jail for something that was apparently a very negative thing, but that the girl didn't perceive it as so bad that he needed to be in jail, and it was a case of child molestation. And so the father had to be in jail, but she kept blaming the authorities for putting him in jail, but she couldn't see the side of the people that were victimized by him.
Very interesting. Gabriel, we're running out of time. Let us know how folks can get a hold of you. How can they contact you?
Okay, they can add me on their Skype account by adding my account is G Pastor Lugo, GPASTORLUGO, or sending an email to GabrielPastorL@gmail.com.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Very interesting information. Thank you all for joining us today. I want to remind you that if you missed any of our past episodes, you're welcome to find them on our YouTube channel. And for next week, if you would like to join us, we will have an authentic Mayan shaman visiting. So if you'd like to come and see what she has to teach us, I invite you to come and join us. Thank you and goodbye.
El programa anterior fue un programa pagado y las opiniones emitidas en el mismo no representan la opinión de CBBA Radio ni de sus patrocinadores.